All right, so let's get started with one of our cards. We are going to start with one of the most simple ones that we have going on. So what we're going to be doing, all righty, let's get started with our very first card. What you're going to need is your crushed curry ink pad there. And don't forget your Memento black ink. So let's get that package together and we will get started. Okay, so within the package we have, this is the Pear Pizzazz card base that we have, and we have our card base. Okay, there's the first piece that we have, the card base. There is a pre-cut piece of crushed curry that we are going to be stamping some flowers on, a couple of a basic white and a green piece of label there for you. And inside you may notice that there are a couple of butterflies. Mine are just kind of stuck together, but I'll just place them off to the side and work with them in a little bit. Okay, so let's get started. We are going to need our crushed curry mat, so let's get that. I'm going to place everything else together. And I have my crushed curry. So this will be done landscape. It's up to you if you want to turn it the other way and have it portrait mode. It is totally up to you. But I will be doing this in the landscape mode. So we're going to grab our Friendly Hello stamp set. This is a great stamp set. And what we're going to be using are these little two flowers here to create our card base kind of design there. So let's get them out and place them on a block. Okay. It's always good to have some extra blocks so that you don't have to move back and forth. Okay. So I have them on the block, and I have them actually on block D when they fit really nicely there. Okay. I'm going to take my crushed curry and I am going to stamp on the cardstock. Now there is no rhyme or reason or any particular pattern. You can just stamp along as you go, and I find that the crushed curry, depending on how juicy your stamp pad is, will have either a little darker or a little lighter image on. Okay, so let's just kind of go all the way across. We're just going to keep stamping and have them on there. Okay, and I'm just going, no rhyme or reason. So you're just going to fill up your little page and have them fall off the page a little bit here and there, and just add some design. It's going to look fantastic. Okay, so I did that and I placed them in. Now if you really want to and you have some space, there is a little flower in here if you want, or you can add some of this one. It's up to you if you want to add a little bit more. So I know my tag part is going to fall roughly about the left side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and just pop some on there and see how I like it. If not, it's okay, because it's going to be covered. That's not a bad thing. So I got a couple of spaces. I'm going to actually pop these guys in some of the spaces that I can see here. Okay, and we'll just pop them in, and just so you don't want them overlapping on any of the stamps that you've already done. So that is going to look really really cute, especially the little leaf part. I'm going to have that keep poking out a little bit. There we go. Okay, so I have that now on my card base. Now, as I mentioned, where I did my sample one, it will be covered over, so that's not a big deal. Okay, so I'm going to let this dry and set it aside, and we are going to get the label part, the green label part. And within there, there's a piece of basic white that is cut. Now you may have two pieces, one for a sentiment and one for the image. So look for the one that fits within the stitched border of the label. Okay, and I'm going to take that, and we are going to be using some Memento black. Okay, don't forget when you're going between colors to make sure you do a good cleaning job of your stamp. So I'm going to spray my Stampin' Scrub with a little bit of Stampin' Mist and clean it with the Stampin' Scrub. Now I like the Stampin' Scrub. Some people have the chamois, whatever works. I like it how it gets all in the little nooks and crannies. For me, that's what I prefer. So I'm going to ink it up now with the black. Okay, and I'm going to make kind of like a C image on this flower, on this for these flowers. So you're going to start to see the image kind of like a C, so I'm going to be going around. Okay, there we go. So there you can start seeing the image of the C. It kind of goes around. Now I want to add a few little leaves. Okay, so let's get the leaves that are in this stamp set. I'm going to use the ones that with the outline, and also we can always use the little outline of berries. So let's get the little leaves, and I'm going to put that on a block, and I'm going to keep these items on a block because I'm going to be using them for other cards that we're going to create. And I'm placing this on block A. It's a nice small block, easy to handle, and I am just going to look where the flower is and just stamp our leaves a little bit. Okay, let's just do that. And I'm going to try and get it right in between. There we go. Now that image right here is a little bit off. If you want, you can always flip it over and redo your image if you want. So that's what I'm going to do, just to show you that what side I want to use. So maybe I'll leave a little bit more space in between to put the leaves in. Okay, and I'm going to choose the best one. So one side may be a little bit better than the other that I like. Now I want to get into these leaves, but I don't want to get onto the flower. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little piece and I'm going to mask it and just kind of stamp right in the middle. So it kind of goes behind the flower there. Okay, and I'll do one up here. I think this side is turning out a little bit nicer for me. Oops. Let's get a little bit of masking going on here. Okay. Maybe we'll just do it right about there. There we go. Okay, just behind the flower. And flip it over. I'm going to choose whatever side. I think this one's a little bit too busy. I actually do like this side a little bit better. Now what I want to do is I'm going to color these flowers and I'm going to color the leaves. So I've decided to do the coloring with a yellow, a crushed curry, or something that matches into that. Okay, and you'll notice I have a dark and a light, and I'm going to be doing that. So let's get our Stampin' Blends to start the coloring. we have this all colored in, we want to go ahead and stamp our sentiment on the small piece of the sentiment tag. And I'm going to be placing it on about the right hand side, and I'm going to use the Hello Friend. I think it's going to fit really nicely on there. And I'll ink it up again with the black, Memento Black. And if I do get it crooked or there's something wrong, I can always flip this over. So let's stamp that. Looks fantastic. Remember, clean your stamp a little bit and cover up your ink pad so you don't put your finger in it. Now let's get together with some gluing. So I'm going to glue this piece on to the part that has the scalloped edges, and this is from the Color and Contour bundle. It's a great bundle to have. You want to have that. It makes some really great edging right there. Okay, so there we go. We got them together. Let's bring back in our card base, and we can start gluing things down. So what we're going to do is actually glue down that piece of crushed curry. As I said, if you want to do it portraits ways, it's up to you. I'm going to be doing it landscape. So let's glue that down onto the card base. Okay, and there we go. What I want to do next is I'm actually going to place some dimensionals on the back of this part that I'm going to be placing on here. Okay, and I'll put a couple of pieces on, and the Hello Friend will sit off to the right side. Now, depending on how far over I want this is going to determine on where I lay this piece here. So I can see it's going to kind of clear a little bit on that side and fit that in. And because I put the dimensionals one here and one here, I can slip it in anywhere along. So I can put it up in the middle or down, lower down, and just tuck it in. Okay, so we got that. If you wanted to add some ribbon, go right ahead. It would look fantastic with that. And in the meantime, I'm going to toss on a couple of butterflies that I have. As I said, these ones kind of are just sticking together. Oops, this one's sticking on me. And I'll place them on there. And I have 3, so let's place another one on there. And don't forget, if you want, you can always add a little bit of Wink of Stella to one of the flowers if you want. Okay, so that is our very first card. I hope you like that. I think that's a great design. I made up this design myself, and I think it's fantastic. I just love it. Don't forget, add a little bit of ribbon, add a little bit of bling, put your own spin on it, and make it yourself. If you like this design, make another one, but this time make it portrait. Post it. If you've done it the other way, let's see what you've come up with. Ladies, 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 are you having a lovely time? Let's move on to card number 2. So I'm going to show you, you want to have the ones that have the purple in it, and this is the card that we're going to be making. There is some fussy cutting, there is a lot of stamping going on, and what you're going to notice is when your card is done, it's going to look fantastic. So in the meantime, there are just a couple of pieces. There is the card base here that we have. Okay, there are 2, you may have 1 or 2, probably 2 pieces of basic white, and this is where the flowers are going to be stamped out, and then we will fussy cut them out. And this will be our card base, and we will place that on here. And like I said, you could put it portrait or landscape. In the meantime, we're using it landscape. So don't glue this down yet, very important. Let's place aside the card base and get out our basic Memento Black, because again, we're going to be doing some coloring and we're going to be stamping on here. So I still have my images on my Stampin' Block, and what I want to do is we are actually going to be starting with some of the leaves. Actually, I didn't put some of the leaves on, but we are going to be doing leaves. So you want kind of these little berries. You want this piece of sprig here, some of these flat leaves. So let's get some of them up onto a block and get stamping. So as I mentioned, I have a large variety of blocks so that I don't need to go in between. So let's get them all on our block. That is the leaf. That is the inside of the leaf. I am going to look for a little block that I can place my little berries on. These are block size A. They fit very well. And let's get a little bit more. I'm going to actually be using, this is the one with the sprigs here. Place that on a little larger block, block B. So as you can see, I have them all laid out here. I also do want to use, I know I didn't use it on the original card, but I think I want to use this little bit of, what is it, sprinkly kind of whatever it is. It actually adds a really, really nice design. So let's find a block to place that on, and that. If you're going to use this, you may want to use it with a crumb cake, these little dots, or stamped off a little bit with a green. Okay, so let's put that aside and let's get started. We are going to start with some variety of different greens, and I'm going to start with the sprig so that I can kind of start outlining it. And I don't want a very strong color, so I'm going to be using a Pear Pizzazz or Old Olive would work really well too for this. So in the meantime, I'm going to ink it up. And to test it out, I'm actually going to test it on my paper to see, is it a strong color? Is it, do I need to re-ink my pad? How is it looking? So I know my flowers are going to go in the middle, so I'm going to go around. I have to imagine that they're going to go around the edges, and I am going to be placing my flowers thereabouts in the middle. Now, I'm not going to be crowding these images together because I want to get some leaves in between. So I can always add more in a little bit. It's better to start out with just some and then work your way in. So I'm going to leave this Pear Pizzazz open, and so I can keep adding to the color. Now I want to add a couple of more leaves in, but I want to use the outline one. So this is the outline one I'm going to be using here with the leaf. And I am actually using Evening Evergreen. Always test out on your paper. So there's my first test. I'm going to place it beside it. I think it's going to look great. I'm just going to add a little bit there. One. We'll have it peek out here and there. Two. Make sure it's well inked all the way around. As I mentioned, the flowers will be on top of that. So, okay, so it won't really matter too much how it peeks out, but I know some of it will. Okay, so I got that peeking out. All right, and I want to use the inline or the fill color for this leaf, and I'm going to be using it. You can either use in the same color. I'm going to be using in Pear Pizzazz and just kind of pop it inside. Now, if you do use the Evening Evergreen and you want a lighter color, just stamp off. But, so it doesn't matter. It's going to look fantastic either way you do it. So I'm just going to pop that on there. My Pear Pizzazz is a little lighter in color, so you can still see the outlines of the leaves. Okay? So we're starting to build it up. Now let's start getting some of the little berries, and I'm going to be using a different color. Now I can choose between Soft Succulent and Just Jade. As I can see here, I've got my samples started, and I'm going to match it. What color do I want? Actually, that is Soft Succulent. I think that's going to look really nice, and I'm going to add that on. Kind of go a little bit around. Okay. And we'll just keep going around the card. Okay. Now, as we do our flowers, and if our flowers kind of overlap a little bit too much, we can then eventually go out a little bit more and spread out on the leaves. So I'm going to leave that as it is. I actually, you know what, there is another. So I used this berry one. I'm going to use this tiny little berry one, and I'm going to use, oh, I just stuck my thumb in the ink. I'm going to use my Just Jade and fill it in. So I'm going to close these guys up so I don't put my thumb in, just like I just did. And I'm going to use my Just Jade. I like the different color greens. They do, when you mix in the different color greens, they do add a really nice texture and design there. So we'll just pop that on there and just do a little bit. I'm going to kind of try and see, get it as close as I can. Whoa, that's a little dark. So I'll pop it in a little closer. There. And as I said, with the flowers, it will go over top and kind of hide as much as I want. That actually looks really nice. I think that looks good. So I didn't add too much of the Just Jade. I knew the Just Jade would be a little bit darker, so I wanted something a little smaller that was not overpowering. So, as I mentioned, I'm going to do this dotted one in a little bit after I place my flowers down. Okay, so I'm going to place this off to the side now, and let's get in the 2 pieces of white here. And I'm going to get my Memento Black, oops, and ink it up. I'm going to do 1 on each, stamp 1 on each piece, and then I'm going to cut them out. Okay, so let's do that. So there we go. We have it stamped. And in the meantime, let's do some snipping. My color base is fresh freesia. What I'm going to do is I'm going to be taking a few colors of that color family, and I'm going to be coloring them in. I'm going to also be using some other different colors. This is Highland Heather, and I got a couple of other ones that are much lighter to add some depth and dimension so they are not all the same color. So now that we have our flowers colored, what I'm going to do is bring back in the image of the leaves again, and I'm going to lay them down. And again, we're going to be doing that kind of C-shaped. If you want, you can still cut those flowers out, have them splayed a little bit more. It's up to you. So maybe I'm just going to kind of move them around and decide on how I want them. Oh, look, that looks really nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place them up on dimensionals. I want to give them different heights. So this one I might just set straight on with some glue so it's flat on the card. Okay, gonna add that one right about there. I really liked how that one is. And this other one, the second one, I'm just gonna add some dimensionals on the back just to pop it up and around like that. Now what I want to do is I want to place a sentiment on the bottom, and that is going to be in Memento Black. Now you can do that before or after you place your flowers. If you do it afterwards, just be a little bit more careful on inking up. So let's get that, place it on our block, and I'm going to ink it up and test it on our paper. Looks good, and I'm just going to add that right there, nice and straight. There we go. I think that looks fantastic. Add some Wink of Stella if you want, or some embellishments or some gems on that. And there you go. I'm going to now place this on the card base. Glue that on. Very easy peasy. Just for that. Look at that. I love the colors. The different colors on the blends does add something to it. I think it looks fantastic. I love it just the way it is. Okay, so what do you think of that? Let's move on to our next card. Are you having a good time so far? So this card has a lot of different layers on it, and what we're going to do, you'll notice that they are pre-cut and everything. So let's see what we have in our package there. We have the card base, so I'm going to place that off to the side. There is the piece of embossed with a gingham embossing folder, and you know what, so we don't lose our pieces, this is actually going to be glued down. Let's do that right now. Glue that down so we don't misplace it, and we'll pop it onto our card base so we don't lose it anywhere. Next we're going to take, there is a piece that is cut as a rectangular. Now there are the piece of the designer series paper, which is the peach one, and these two will go together. So I know that this DSP is going on this piece of cardstock. Let's glue that down so it doesn't get lost. It's so much easier once they're placed together and they won't get lost. Okay. And this is going to be actually onto the left side. So again, let's add some glue so it doesn't meander somewhere under another piece. So I'm going to place it onto the left, equal distance top and bottom. I have a piece of blue on that, and depending on how thick or thin you want your edge, if you want it thinner, cut down this piece. And there is the piece of basic white. Now I am not going to glue that down yet because I want to do some stamping and add a little bit of ribbon. So what we're going to do is we are going to get our little bird. So let's get our little bird out of the stamp set, pop him on a block. See, that's why you need a lot of blocks. I am running out of blocks. But look at that, and this one fits nicely on block number D. Again, Memento ink. We're going to ink it up and place him right square on that basic white square. So let's pop him in. There we go. Looks cute, so darn cute. And again, we are going to do some coloring with him. And I'm actually going to pick up the Balmy Blue from the background and a little bit of the flesh tones for his chest right there. that we've got them colored, let's pop them on the Balmy Blue cardstock here. There we go. Now you'll notice there's a little piece of ribbon. It is up to you whether you want to add a little bit of ribbon in off to the side, or add a sentiment on that if you like. I'm just going to leave it the way it is. I'm going to leave it blank, and my sentiment actually will be on the inside of the card for this one. Most of the time I put my sentiment on the outside, but let's do it a little differently and have it on the inside. So pop a few dimensionals on and onto the front. Again, if you want, you can always add a little bit of Wink of Stella. I'm going to angle cut these pieces of ribbon so they don't fall off. There we go. And voila. Add a little Wink of Stella to your bird and he's ready to fly off to a friend. What do you think? Looks fantastic. One more card and you're going to love this one. For this card, you will need basic gray, but if you don't have basic gray, that's okay. Black will work just fine. So the card we're going to make today is we're going to finish off with a nice gray coloring, and again we will be using the Stampin' Blends to color, and yes, some more fussy cutting. So let's get started. Let's take a look in our package, and we have our basic gray cardstock. You will notice that there is a piece of House Heart and Home Designer Series paper. Your pattern may look similar to this or may look slightly different. It should have kind of a wood type kind of pattern on it. There are 2 pieces of a Designer Series paper. And what we are going to be doing, we will be doing a little bit of cutting on the edge to flag that. Okay, and so let's take a look and get those pieces flagged. Now, if you do have the larger flag and punch, use that. If not, you might have to just use your snips and place that in and just flag it that way. So what we're going to do that for each of the pieces. I'm going to place it in and just punch out the edge. Now, they may be a little longer, but that's okay. It's all dependent on which one you want longer than the other. Okay, so let's take a look. There is also a piece of a doily in there, some white cardstock for the inside, a little tag for the sentiment, and another piece of white for the flowers that we're going to make. So let's get this all nicely glued up, and we are going to place the banner punched pieces on. Now if you want, it just depends if you want one piece longer than the other. It is up to you. Let's glue that down and place it off to the left side a little bit. I'm just going to place them off and overlapping a little bit. Now I wanted it a little bit shorter, so I'm just going to snip off that little piece that's overhanging. Okay. And so I don't lose anything, let's just glue that right down onto the card base. Okay, there we go. And our piece, our basic gray doily is actually going to be popped on top. Now I'm going to leave a little bit of glue space on the bottom so I can just slip this up under there. So I'm going to place the glue just on the top so it is, I can easily slip in the sentiment later. Now, depending on which sentiment you want, this should fit either one way or the other. I'm going to have it portrait, and I'm going to use You Have My Love and Support for that. I'm going to stamp that in basic gray near the bottom of the sentiment tag so I can slip it up under the doily as I mentioned. Okay, let's place that on there. Okay. And how it's going to go is just going to slip up under there. Now you can either wait till you get your flowers on there or just pop it on right away. So I'm just going to pop it on because I know that's where I want to place it. And I'm going to make sure that I'm going to have it overhanging a little bit on the banner. And the extra white space, I will have some of the flowers kind of maybe hanging over. So let's get our piece of basic white. Again with our flowers, I'm going to take our basic gray and I'm going to stamp some flowers on that. Now when you cut these out, you may want to cut the flowers out separate or stamp as many as you can and just use what is on the paper. So I'm going to actually have one of them overhanging and I'm going to look, see which one is easier to cut out. So this one would be easier to cut out. Now when I am going to do my flower, I want to pick up this nice peach color here. So I'm going to go to some of my neutrals and I'll get that and color the flowers. Now this time with the coloring, you will notice I'm not going to go right to the edge of the flower. I'm going to leave a little bit of white space around the edge a little bit on each flower and each leaf. So let's get started on that and get some coloring. right, let's arrange our flowers. We're going to place them on roughly around like this. You're going to decide on how you like to have them. And there we go. I'm going to have some that are glued straight down and some that are popped up on dimensionals. That I can hide underneath one of the flowers, no problem. Nobody will ever know. There we go. There. And if you want, color those in. And that will be it. Yeah, maybe. Don't forget, add a little bit of Wink of Stella, maybe to some of the flowers, and there you go. And those are our cards for today. Hope you enjoyed them. There we go. And add some of the little pieces on. There we go.